Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Daily Brentford Podcast with myself, Daniel, where today we'll be looking ahead to the visit of Everton to the Gtech on Wednesday as we look to get our home form back on track. Just before we get going, guys, we're a brand new company, so we're looking for your support this season and beyond as we look to bring you the best and most in-depth coverage across the entire network. Whether this is a 5-star review on your favourite podcasting platform or a recommendation to your friends, we are very grateful for any support that we receive. So then let's get straight into this one. It's a short turnaround between the games against Leicester and Everton, although Brentford did play a day earlier than Everton, with our game being on Friday night, and perhaps one of the more comfortable evenings we'll have this season. We do also have a break after the Everton game with no FA Cup action until we take on Aston Villa at home some week and a half after the Everton clash. So on taking this into account, I expect Brentford to be unchanged, having had the luxury also to rest some players early against Everton. Jensen, who was missing from the bench against Leicester, is likely to miss out a game with a minor injury. The turnaround is being too soon, I would have thought. But hopefully Christian Norgard will be ready, and the half-time substitution, as discussed in yesterday's episode, was hopefully just a precaution. I think it's important that we have him in the midfield. I think we are much better with him in the side, and I think particularly when he's the one to come out and we have that midfield of Yanelt and Yarmoliuk, sometimes doesn't quite look as solid, although Yarmoliuk and Yanelt in their own right are both good players and good options, especially Yarmoliuk. I think he's come on a lot this season and is turning himself into a dependable Premier League player, similar to Yanelt, who's obviously a bit further along in his journey. There is always an option as well for Brentford to bring Yarmo in as an extra midfielder and drop Shard to the bench, which we've done at times this season. But with Sharda in good form and with that midfield in good form in general, I don't think there's any need really to change a winning team here. And I think Everton will be a more challenging proposition to break down as we faced in recent weeks. So perhaps having that front four and sticking with that front four will help us in terms of going forward and breaking them down. Following this, hopefully, given the time difference between the Everton game and the Villa games, we could see the likes of Igor Thiago, Rico Henry, and possibly even Aaron Hickey make their return in the next few weeks. I wouldn't put a lot of money on that, but I think it's important to get those players back for the run-in. If we can get them all fit for the last 5-10 games, then that just adds depth for the team. We were talking only a couple of weeks ago how our bench is starting to look stronger again, and with those three perhaps on the bench as well, it would look really, really strong with several options available, because right now I don't think the likes of Igor Thiago really gets in the team with that form of the front three. And obviously Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey, I think we have to be really, really patient with them. And I think the real goal for them is for them to be ready to have a full pre-season and a full season next year, sorry. With Everton, they are much improved under David Moyes. Beto up front is in the form of his Everton career, and it is a compliment to David Moyes that he's managed to get that out of him. He's already scored more goals, I believe, under David Moyes than he did under Sean Dyche. And also to add to what Everton already have in terms of a solid defence with the likes of Tarkowski, Branthwaite and Jake O'Brien, who's also come into the side at right back in recent weeks. Kind of like a hybrid right back, centre back, a little bit like Christopher Ayer. I think they'll be solid at the back and potentially dangerous up front if Beto continues on his scoring streak. Perhaps a positive for Brentford is that Iliman Ndiaye, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Dwight McNeil are all set to miss this one, which is a blow for them, I think. Ndiaye, especially out wide or in and behind the strikers, he's very tricky. He's not a traditional Everton player over the last few years, and I think he really added another dimension to them. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, they might not miss so much with the form that Beto's in. If Calvert-Lewin was fit, I would wonder whether he'd start in place of Beto, given Beto's form. And then Dwight McNeil, I feel like he's always a player that scores against Brentford. He always does well against Brentford. He's more of your traditional old school winger. Plays on the same flank as his favoured foot, and with him not being able to get crossed into the box, hopefully it does take a little bit away from their attack. Although they did go into that game at the weekend against Manchester United without those three as well, and they coped very, very well and were very, very unlucky to only draw that game. They were much, much better than Manchester United for the vast majority and went 2-0 ahead. After the break, then, I will be looking back at our previous record against Everton's season this year in general, and I'll be trying to make some predictions on how I think it will turn out on this occasion.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to part 2 of your daily Brentford podcast as we look ahead to Everton's visit to the Gtech on Wednesday, a much improved Everton at that. Let's start by looking back at our previous record against Everton in the Premier League over the years. It's not the best record. I think partly that was down to Thomas Frank having a particularly poor record against Sean Dyche, who was previously in post there. By contrast, and I don't know how relevant this will be, but Thomas Frank had a very good record against David Moyes' West Ham, so maybe that is a positive omen going into the game on Wednesday night, although is that just a Brentford and West Ham thing following our victory against them just over a week ago. Given our recent games against Everton, there's no wins and there's 3 defeats in the last 5, including the last 2 occasions at the Gtech. Arguably, our worst home performance of the last season came at home against Everton last year when Everton won 3-1. But having said all that, if we look back to our visit to Goodison Park this season and the 0-0 draw, that can be seen as perhaps a source of encouragement after playing over 45 minutes with 10 men following Christian Norgard's sending off, which was later rescinded. Brentford have beaten Everton in the Premier League era before. That was both times we'd beaten them, and we've only beaten them twice, was during our first season in the Premier League. Everton then coming into this one, come into it off the back of 4 wins, 2 draws and 1 defeat since David Moyes took charge, with the only defeat coming 1-0 to Aston Villa in his very first game in charge when he had not had much time at all to get to grips with the team and have training sessions. They've drawn against Liverpool during that time, the last minute equaliser from James Tarkowski, and they were very unlucky, as I've touched on, to only get a point versus Manchester United at the weekend. So I think it's safe to say that they're on a high and they will be confident, and I expect their defence to be as solid as ever. But to this, they have added goals to their game, which is always a good recipe for success. Having said all that, then, I'm expecting a much tighter game. Typically, Brentford games this season, particularly at the Gtech, have had a lot of goals in them, but I'm expecting this to be tight. I'm expecting the Bees to show a different side to them, or to have to show a different side to them if we want to get a result. I think we'll need to be really solid defensively. I think Beto up front, in the form of his Everton career, is a danger man, and I think him versus Bioniq will be a test, and I think that battle will be won perhaps by the winning side here. I think that is a key battle, and I think Bioniq needs to keep him under wraps with the help, of course, of Nathan Collins. I am thinking low margins in this game, so I think we need to be really strong at the back and take our chances when they come. I think more than most games, whoever gets the first goal here, I think are more than likely to go on and win the game. Having said that, Everton have had more goals involved in their recent games, but I still think with that defence, Jordan Pickford in behind, James Tarkowski, Jared Brantford, O'Brien at right back, as I've said, who is technically another centre back. I think they'll be dangerous from set pieces as well. I think we'll find it more difficult to score from our own set pieces, to score from crosses into the box. So if this is to go the way it might go, we may struggle to create against Everton more so than we have done recently, and we may be looking at a situation like against Spurs where we're putting lots of crosses into the box, but Everton are just dealing with them with those players they've got at the back. But I am thinking it will be a really, really tight game, really close. Like I said, I think whoever scores first has a good chance of going on and winning it. And my prediction for this one is going to be much lower scoring than usual. I've gone 1-0 Brentford, and I've gone for that on the basis that we're on form. We're looking good. We've got reason to be confident, just as Everton do. I think with some of Everton's attacking players out, minus Beto and Doucouré in behind, who again is always good for an assist or two, and he's a big lad himself. But I think with our front four, we might just have the edge going forwards, with Damsgaard in behind, pulling the strings with Brian and Boomer, Johan Wissa, Kevin Schade. I think there's every chance that we can be the team to break the deadlock and hopefully see things out. But I expect it to be tight and cagey. I don't necessarily expect it to be pretty or the most entertaining game. Hope I'm wrong on that, because I'll be there. But I back us to nick one, and I back Kevin Schade to get on the score sheet as he didn't get on the score sheet against Leicester. I back him to get a second half winner for the Bees, which would really put us in the mix then, in that top half, hopefully, as we pause the Premier League for a week and a half, and that would be a brilliant position to be in, and we've got a brilliant opportunity to do that. So that is my prediction. As I said, I think it will be very tight. My main fear is that we get into a similar attacking pattern as against Spurs, and if that happens, Thomas Frank needs to be brave with his substitutes. He needs to be adventurous off the bench. He needs to look to change the game, because I can see a situation here where we're putting crosses into the box, but the likes of James Tarkowski, Jared Brantford and O'Brien are eating them day after day, and Pickford as well can be quite a commanding goalkeeper between the sticks. So I think we'll need to find a different way to attack them. But I think with our pace and power and dynamism in that front four, I'm backing us to do just that. So that will do it for today's podcast. We're very much looking forward to the game on Wednesday night. Thank you for listening to the podcast. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode. And once again, we'd be extremely grateful for your support, as this will enable us to go bigger and better moving forwards. Daily Brentford can be found on X, Instagram and TikTok under the handle @GSPN Brentford. And this podcast is also now available on YouTube under the Global Sports Podcast Network YouTube channel. We'll be back again on Thursday, where we'll be reviewing the action from the Gtech on Wednesday night. Until then, from myself, thank you for being with me.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.